One of the questions that I get a lot of times is the power wheel adjustment. What is the power wheel? What does this wheel do? This little wheel right here, what does this do? Okay. Actually, think of this as a fine-tuning wheel, okay? If you're shooting a pellet that is, okay, I shoot 25 caliber. That is my caliber, guys. You know me. I'm a hunter. I'm a plinker. I found a pellet that does just all the way around. JSB Exacts, the Diablo pellet. It's a 25.4 grain pellet. This is pretty much an all-around pellet. This is pretty much what I use all the time. If somebody comes by and wants me to tune a gun for them or set a gun up, or if I sell a gun to somebody, I set it up with the Diablo pellet. Okay, so take for example, that's a 25.4 grain pellet. You don't need to take this wheel and crank this thing all the way up. Okay, it doesn't have to be as hard and as tight as it can go to make this gun shoot. So what I like to do is take a chronograph. I like to take my gun and I start out down here at the very bottom of this, okay? And we'll sit here and pull it down. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we're gonna just pull the power wheel down. Now there's numbers. There's 1 through 16 on the wheel itself. See if you can see that right there. Okay, there's 1 through 16 on the wheel. And then there is, say, 1 through 13. If you count the little hash marks, there's 1 through 13 on there, okay? Those are reference numbers. Those are numbers that you can use to build a data book. So if I'm gonna shoot a 50 grain hollow point, say I call Robert Vogel up, Mr. Hollow Point, or get online and order some hollow points. Well, you got to figure out first of all what kind of gun you're shooting. What do you want to hunt? Okay, guys, I hunt coyote, I hunt fox, I hunt pest animals. I do a lot of removal in different areas. So for me, I have found that the Mr. Hollow Point 50 grain hollow point bullet or projectile in my Condor SS works absolutely perfect. I have a really good range with it. I can shoot a long distance with it. That's the bullet that I like to use when I'm hunting, okay? So naturally, going from a 25.4 grain to a 50 grain, I'm gonna need a little bit more oomph out of it, okay? So that will prompt me to take the power wheel adjustment and I'm gonna pull the power wheel up. Okay, but I want to maximize my shots per fill. I want to maximize the amount of air that's going down the barrel without wasting any. That's where the chronograph comes in. Guys, you can get a chronograph. Anybody can buy one. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there that these things are hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and they're not. Airgun Depot has everything you guys need. Whether you get a Pro Chrony Digital or whether you get the old Alpha, the metal-based chronographs, there's like 4 or 5 different models that you can get, and they're all reasonably priced. And you can go online and check them out there at Airgun Depot. So basically, what I want to do today is I want to take and I want to shoot the gun. I want to run it from the bottom up to about the middle and then up to the top. And I want to see where our sweet spot is on the power wheel. Again, people call me all the time. They're hey, Rick, you know, how do I set this up? Where do I find the sweet spot? You know, the sweet spot could be just about anywhere. And I apologize for the hand gestures. Again, we're in South Georgia. Guys, gnats, if you don't know what a gnat is, come down to South Georgia. They're aggravating. We want to find the sweet spot on here, and we don't want to waste any air. So I'm not really talking about accuracy today as much as I am talking about the power wheel. The AirForce Airguns power wheel. One of the things about the AirForce Airguns is right out of the box, these guns are absolutely fantastic. I'm the kind of guy that when I spend that money, I want it right out of the box. I don't want to have to spend a bunch more money modifying something. And that's the great thing about the AirForce Airgun. Right out of the box, this gun shoots, it's accurate. You can stack pellet on top of pellet at just about any yardage you want to. A lot of times we like to set the guns up 35, 40 yards because most of the customers are doing it in a backyard setting. The guys that like to hunt have a lot of law enforcement guys that do predator and pest control. U.S. Fish and Wildlife come by. They like to shoot at my range and they get tips, and I trade secrets with them back and forth. And so they like to get back at 60 and 70 yards, and they're just amazed when they're stacking those things up inside of a dime, sometimes even smaller than a dime. So I hope that maybe by playing with the power wheel and shooting it across the chronograph and just running some air down the barrel, it'll help you guys kind of understand where you're going to tune this at. So again, the numbers and hash marks that you see on the side of it, you could get a book and you can figure out, okay, I'm going to be at number 4 on the wheel, and on my meter it's going to be up at number 6. Okay, so you're going to have all these different options to write in the book exactly where your gun's at, so when you go out and shoot, say it's a windy day and you need to pick up the speed just a little bit, but you don't want to overdo it. So you're going to get in your book and you're going to go down here and you're going to understand that I need to be at this hash mark and this dial number, and you're going to be set. You don't have to do a lot of guessing. Personally, guys, I am not that organized. I'm not that disciplined. If I can put it in a hole like that, that's a kill zone for me. I can take an animal out ethically and quickly, then that's what I like to do. So what do you say we get to it? All right, guys, something else that I want to let you guys in on, that when you're on this power wheel right here, there is no need to crank this thing down as hard as it'll go. One of the things about this wheel, it is on there is a piece of Delrin plastic in here that you need to be aware of, because if you just crank that thing down or you try to push it up, we have a tendency to try to tighten things and over tighten things. You know, we're guys, and I mean, the tighter the better, okay? So we want to make sure that you don't overpower this, okay? Don't force it down there till it just won't go anymore. You know, when you see that little indicator get to the bottom, say the number 1 hash mark, that's where it needs to stop. You can find you a nice little sweet spot in there to start from. So you're on your little indicator, says number 1, okay? And then down here, it says number 1 right here, okay? So that would be a good starting point. So I'm going to crank up the chronograph. We're going to run a couple rounds through there. Okay, guys, we got the chrono set up. We're down at the very lowest setting that we can get out of this gun, 3,000 PSI. Let's see what happens. Almost 800 feet per second on the lowest on the lowest setting. Shot number 2. That's pretty nice. You can hear how hard that thing hits. I mean, it smacks pretty good. I'm shooting a steel target down there about 35 yards. Just obliterating it. Got a pretty nice little 10-shot string going on the low setting. We're actually picking up speed as we go. The gun is settling in. Whenever you make an adjustment on the power wheel, it takes a shot or two to get it to settle in because it's putting pressure on the spring. Nice. All right. One more shot. I think that's going to do it. We're still on the lowest setting. We're still at 299. I'm at 2,099 psi. So we erred on that one. What is the deal there? You know, it's kind of hard being under the shade as the sun moves. Let's see where we're at here. That was number 9. Let's see, 10 here. All right. There's 10 shots. Again, this is on the lowest setting. So let's just review this real quick. Let me just run back through here. Okay, shot number 1 was 796. I had not shot this gun, so we moved the power wheel down from where I did have it set at. So 796 was that first shot out of there on a fresh fill. Shot number 10 was 856, 868 on 9, 848. So you can see the consistency as we scroll through here, guys. And that's on the very lowest setting. 800 feet per second is absolutely a fantastic. Guys, you can shoot squirrels in your backyard with this. You can shoot pigeons, birds, whatever you have to do. Okay, so our high was 868 feet per second on the lowest setting. Our low was 790. Our average was 829. Extreme spread of 78. Standard deviation of 28. So that is on the very lowest setting that we've got. So let's change the string here. We'll go to string number 4. I'm going to go ahead and top the tank off, but we only used about 100, 150, 200 psi. So we're like really we're looking good. So I'm going to top it off though, just so we can change that power setting, and I'm going to move it up to maybe a mid-range setting and see what we get. We'll compare all the averages here in a little bit. All right, guys, we're going to run this thing up a little bit. Okay, let's see where we change at 7 on this dial indicator. All right, we're filled back up to 3,000 psi. Again, we're shooting the JSB Exact King 25 Diablo pellet. It's a 25.4 grain pellet. Now I have not taken another shot to settle this in, so let's see where the first shot is at 3,000 psi. $9.98. That is nice. Look at that. Once that gun gets settled in, it's really, Look at that, a duplicate speed. That's sweet. That's more bang for your buck right there, guys. Oh boy, I'm loving this. Just never gets old shooting this gun. Shot number 7, we're still up over 1,000 feet per second. .996, still a very respectable speed. I've had an error there. I don't know what I did. I think I just bounced it off the top of the chronograph. Not good. .997. I bounced a pellet off the chronograph. That's really smooth, Rick Ward. All right, shot number 10, as you can see, wound up at 994 on our 10th shot. Now that changed the amount of air coming out of here considerably, guys. We're at 2,600 PSI. Now, when we were down here on the lowest setting, we didn't use, we were still at 27, 28, 29, 2,800 PSI. We were at 2,800 PSI after our 10-shot string. And we just did a 10-shot string and increased the power, and we increased the feet per second, just moving it up to number 7 on the dial indicator. Again, guys, if you have a digital gauge when you make your fills, or if you hook a digital gauge to your gun to understand exactly how much pressure you've got in there, you'll never really know for sure. The gauge on the side of these guns are an approximate amount of air that's in there. It's more of a dial indicator to tell you how much air's in there, but that's what we have to go by. So as of right now, this thing is looking sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and crank this thing up. I'm gonna top off the tank, and then we'll move it up. We'll move it all the way up to number 11 and see where we're at on the next string. All right, guys, I've got my Airgun Depot carbon fiber tank hooked up to the gun. I'm gonna crack it open just a little bit. If you listen, you'll hear it open up. Well, maybe not. I did it a little bit slow coming up. So actually, you saw that gauge move. I did that for cause and effect, just to show you the gauge moving. Typically, you don't want to see that gauge move. You just barely want to crack it and let it take its time filling up. We live in a fast food world, and we want fast results. When you're dealing with high pressure air and PCP rifles, you are compressing that air. Basically, if you think about how a diesel engine runs, it runs on compression, which the high compression causes heat, which hammers the fuel and ignites it. Same thing with a PCP rifle, guys. If you get too hot, I mean, you build up too much moisture and pressure inside your tank, and it just wreaks havoc over the long haul. So you can see how the gauge has already settled down just from the initial shot of air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack it open just a little bit. Now I'm using a 4,500 PSI tank. So you really have to be careful, because number one, you'll blow the gauge right off of your air gun. You'll break the dial indicator in there. And then there is a burst disc in here. When you go too much past that red, the burst disc will blow, and then you'll have to send your tank back to be repaired. So we're going to kiss it up just a little bit more here. Open it up just a little bit. Now watch that. The gauge is just into the red, and I've got it shut off, and it's going to settle just a little bit. So again, guys, I want to emphasize, there's a lot of talk on the forums. People go, well, you're not reaching the potential that you promised, or this gun's not doing what the literature promised. Guys, I have to defend that because at the factory, whenever I go visit the factory, everything they have there has digital fill gauges. A company called AirHog, and I don't even know where they're at. I can't remember. I think it may have been around Arizona somewhere. I heard that they're doing some changes around there, so I don't know if you could still get these air gauges, but I know that at the Air Force factory, all of their tanks have digital gauges. When they're filling it and they shut the main tank off, it'll sit there and you can actually see the air settling into the tank. And it is always a couple hundred PSI difference, and they can always kiss it up to where it is exactly 3,000 PSI. So as the tank cools down on your gun, as you compress the air into the tank, it gets hot. So naturally the gauge goes way up. Now if you look, you've seen this gauge already come down and settle in just a little bit since we've been talking about that. So it's always a good idea, when you see it get up into the red, go ahead and shut it off. Wait a minute, go get you a drink of water. Maybe make an adjustment on something, do whatever you need to do, and come back and check it. If you want to have pinpoint accuracy, if you're one of those guys that wants, just know exactly that you've got 3,000 PSI in there, by all means, get on the internet, go to Airgun Depot, see what they have to offer. There's a lot of companies out there, guys, that offer the digital gauges, but I want you to be prepared to pay for it. They don't come cheap. And that's why I'm using just a standard 4,500 carbon fiber tank from Airgun Depot. It's an 88 cubic foot carbon fiber tank. And let's see what we've got here. It's settled just a little bit. I'm going to run it up just a tad bit more. All right, there we go. Now you can see it's just a little bit past the 3,000, but by the time we get done letting that off and unplugging it, everything is going to be hunky-dory. All right, guys, I think what we're going to do is let's move this power wheel up just a little bit, and that's going to give us, okay, so we started out right here between, say, number 1 and number 2. Just for effects, let's just say we were on number 1. If there was a number 1 on that first notch, that's where we started. I'm not typically worried as much about, I don't use the numbers on this wheel. Again, guys, I'm not a precision shooter where I just build all that data up and go and use it. I'm just simply saying that if you are a precision shooter and you're shooting an AirForce Airgun, you can get a spiral notebook and you can make notes of exactly where you were on that dial indicator versus this, versus what grain pellet, what distance, what air feed. Guys, they have set this up for you to be able to fine tune this gun. So if you want to send it off somewhere and have somebody get into your gun and start cutting and polishing and doing whatever, that's fine. I mean, if you're into Modifying, that's great. These are one of the most modified air guns on the market. But Air Force has designed this gun that if you want something right out of the box to have all the power you want, there's your modification, there's your fine-tune adjustment, and as you're seeing what we're doing right now, you've seen some of the speeds, and we're going to go back and recap all the speeds after this. But one important thing that I do want to make mention of is that when we moved from here to here, and we picked up the feet per second, that also changes your zero, okay? This gun is actually zeroed in at 70 yards. That's where, don't ask me why, that's just where I did it at. That's where I like reaching out there and taking care of crows and squirrels, anything that I need to take care of for a customer, then that's what I take care of. And 70 yards just seemed to be the cat's meow for me. But your point of impact, your point of aim will change because obviously you're putting more power behind the pellet, and it's going to fly, it's going to rise a little bit more than what it was at the last one. So always keep that in mind too, guys, and that's another reason why when you take this and you make your data book, or your book of knowledge, as I would like to maybe refer to it, you can take that book of knowledge, and you will have, not only will you have the feet per second that a particular tune setting, you'll have the amount of air that you used, the weight grain pellet, and then you can go measure your target with a set of calipers, and you will know exactly what your hold over or hold under is, what your bullet rise and drop was, what your arc was, what your bell curve was. There's so much data that you can build into that. And yes, there's people out there that will spend that time. It's a discipline. Shooting an air gun at a target the size of a dime is a discipline. Guys, I'll tell you right now, the urban air gunner does not have that discipline. But now I will get out and shoot targets, as you see me post them on my Facebook page, Rick Ward, the Urban Air Gunner. I post targets on there all the time. Granted, those are 100-yard targets. Most of the time they're at 50 and 60 yards that I shoot them at. Just to show you the accuracy of the gun. There are people out there that shoot these guns way better than I do. So I just want to let you know that if you are into precision pinpoint accuracy, that's what we're talking about. This is going to help you tune that gun to where you want to be at. So what I want to do is, let's say we were at 7. We're going to go ahead and we're going to crank this thing up. Now typically I shoot between, let's just say between 8 and 10. 9, duh. I shoot between 8 and 10, okay? So just because we're out here playing around, I want to run this bad boy all the way up. I'm a new shooter, and I just got the gun, and nobody has explained this to me, and now I'm feeling resistance right up here around the 12 to 13 mark. So I don't have to make it touch right here. I just don't. Okay, guys, it does not have to touch the metal right there, okay? There's no reason to force that in there. There's a spring back here. So what you're doing essentially is you're taking that washer and you're coming up and you're taking and tightening that spring and you're shrinking it. So you're making it tighter. So when you cock this gun, there is more resistance cocking the gun now, because we have run this all the way up. And another note, it's easier to run this up and down before you cock the gun. So kind of keep that in mind. If you know, I've had people go, oh, this thing needs to be knurled. This needs to have deeper grooves because my fingers slide off of it. If you will take and adjust it prior to cocking your gun, life will be a whole lot easier. So we're up here at the highest power it'll go. We're at 3,000 PSI. Let's look at the chrony for the next string. All right, we're back at 3,000 PSI. We've got it cranked all the way up. Let's see what we can do. Woo. 1,054. 1,050. 'So we had an error on that shot. But you can still, well, there's a duplicate speed there at 1,020. And well, we ended above, with a 10-shot string, we ended above 1,000 feet per second, guys. And now that's a 27 or a 25.4 grain pellet. Now you can increase your speed if you get a lighter pellet, but you're going to lose accuracy and you're going to lose knockdown power. And I don't recommend anything lighter on a 25 caliber than a 25 grain pellet. In fact, JSB, the reason I shoot the JSB Exact King in 25.4 grain is because the Polymag pellet is a 26 grain, so I know my point of impact is not going to change much at all. I mean, maybe just a millisecond. I mean, it's just not going to be that much difference shooting that pellet. So let's go back and look and see what we've got. Now, I didn't write all these down, so that is pretty doggone impressive. Let's see, let's go back to okay, our high was 1054. Our low was 1,010 feet per second. Our average was 1031. Extreme spread was 44. Standard deviation was 15. Guys, that is, it doesn't get much better than that. Let's go back to where we started at, string number 3. Now that was on the lowest setting, okay? Our lowest setting. We had 856 feet per second. And that's going from shot number 10 back up to the top, okay? So let's run up here. Okay, your high was 868, your low was 790. So, I mean, all of that within a 10-shot string is absolutely great. Average 829, extreme spread 78, standard deviation was 28. Let's go to the next string where we moved up to a midways, let's say number 7 on the dial indicator. That was shot number 10, number 9, 997. And as we're going up, look at that. I mean, almost all your shots were over 1,000 feet per second, right at the, in the middle of the gun. So that's what I'm talking about. Instead of losing and wasting all that air, you could just about go out and, well, I know you could squirrel hunt at a reasonable 40-yard distance, 50-yard distance on a medium setting, and you get more shots per fill that way. Let's see, we'll go back over here to string change. We'll go to our final string. Shot number 10, we ended up on still above 1,000 feet per second. So we can come back up here to save a little time. And our high was 1,054. Our low was obviously 1010 on that deal. Our average was 1031. The extreme spread was 44 and the standard deviation was 15. Guys, that takes you all the way from 0 back up to the top. Well, guys, you've seen it go all the way from one side of the dial all the way up to the next. That last string, we ended at 2,100 PSI. I'm sorry, we ended at 2,600 PSI. We had this thing cranked all the way up as high as it will go with a 25 grain pellet. And still, your shot count is phenomenal. Your speed is phenomenal. The gun, you can tune this gun any way you want to. Again, I want to say, if you guys want to send your gun off somewhere and have somebody cut and polish and clean and do all these little things to it, then by all means, it's your money, you spend it the way you want. I'm here to tell you that when AirForce Airguns builds a gun, right out of the box, you are getting the speed, the accuracy, everything that you need when you spend that kind of money on a gun. And I'm not saying not to, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail down there and a lot of comments telling me that, you know, I'm screwing up somebody's business or it's none of my business what people do. I'm not telling you not to go do and trade with other people. That's what makes this world go around. All I'm saying is, if you want a gun right out of the box that is an absolute killer, then this is what you need to do. Get a chronograph, spend another $120, buy a chronograph, get out in your yard, run it across the bench. Now this is the Condor SS, keep in mind. Guys, the Condor is going to crank out even that much more power. Because the baffle, the sound suppression system in here, I mean, we're going slow. We got to keep it under the speed of sound, okay? We don't want to break the sound barrier. But 1,050 feet per second, boys and girls, that is just awesome. I mean, that's going to take down anything that I want to take down predator-wise. I absolutely love it. Don't know if you can hear the tractors cranking up. This is the Urban Air Gunner. I am in an urban environment, just on the edge of the city limits, in a neighborhood. We've got a 50-acre pecan grove right next to my little farm here. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you find it informative. Please, guys, share it with your friends. There's great things to come from the Urban Air Gunner. Rick Ward, the Urban Air Gunner on Facebook. Rick Ward, the Urban Air Gunner on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button right down there in the bottom. Leave your comments. Guys, let me know what you want to see with these guns. I absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. I am just a guy that loves to shoot. I'm no different than you. I'm lucky to be able to get to go out and do all the cool things that I get to do. I've been blessed by that, and I just absolutely want to share what little knowledge I have with you. So this is Rick Ward, the Urban Air Gunner. Until next time, guys, keep on shooting and shoot safe.